Today, we're going to be talking to our AIP coach, Em Bowen, about relationships and autoimmunity. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Today, we are so happy to have Em guide us through the rocky seas of discussing relationships and autoimmunity. Em, anything introductory that you want to say about this topic?
You know, that's it. It's great that you ask, like, is there any kind of overview? I think that the most important relationship any of us will have in our lifetime is our relationship with ourselves. And so I just want to start there and say, uh, the relationship that we have with ourselves really colors, characterizes, impacts the kinds of relationships we have with other people. And so I just want folks to know that if I'm like making suggestions that feel like that's outside of my how I know myself, that's outside of my identity, that's not a way I'm used to advocating for myself, that rather than pushing ourselves into discomfort and maybe even fear with trying to change how we're doing things with others, often I want people to feel invited. Come back to your relationship with yourself. Why would you advocate for yourself? Why would you say something that someone doesn't want to hear that benefits your health? And so it's about like, oh, right, because I'm committed to my health and I am the primary person who makes decisions about um, whether I'm taking care of my health, whether I'm asking the people in my community, my closest relationships to support me in not necessarily making those decisions for me, but support the decisions I've made.
This
And
is like,
certainly not sabotage.
yeah, this is exactly what I was going to ask you is like, okay, Em, let's say you got diagnosed with an autoimmune condition last
I
week.
did. Oh, not last week, but yeah.
But last week, how do you manage your existing relationships?
I think it's really important to, and this will be hard for some folks, we recognize the relationships that are really about us, where space is made for what is true for us. And so if I received a diagnosis a week ago, then like you are one of the people who's closest to me in my life. And somebody who is always up for doing whatever I think will be in my best interest, right? Like that's a
A
part of our
champion,
relationship.
somebody who
Yeah,
loves you and always wants you to feel well and is a champion for you feeling well, regardless of what that looks like.
right. You want me to be happy and whole. And so I would encourage people to start with people who are like Christine is for me. Start with the people who are a hell yeah. Of
Got your
course,
back.
back. Exactly. Let's start there. We don't have to go for the most challenging relationships or the places we don't tend to feel heard in other parts of our life, and then try to feel heard while we're making changes around our autoimmune condition. So I would start with people who you feel true advocacy, true support from, and start working on strategies there. So with Christine, we have had moments where we've talked about eating meals together or preparing meals, going out for meals. And so when my nutritional needs changed based on dealing with what's going on in my gut and how that's manifesting as an autoimmune condition, like I feel like it's really easy to be frank with you. Oh, yeah, that does sound good. I like that restaurant. And I'm concerned that I won't be able to get anything that meets my current needs. And I'm concerned that I will have a flare. I will have some increase of my symptoms related to eating there. Or I might say, like, I love going out dancing, because that's a thing that we love doing. But I might say, right now, I'm really focusing on my healing, and part of that is protecting my sleep time. Can we
Or
get
not
creative?
having alcohol, or not wearing certain clothes that hurt or bother your skin if it's in play.
Right. Right. Or we're
Mhm.
not staying up super late when I know that that is a stressor in my health. So we've even found dance parties that happen during the daytime, or we can just put on our favorite music in the living room and dance. Right. So there's ways of not just a total loss, not a total no, but can you meet me where I'm at? I have a new set of priorities based on caring deeply about myself and my health. Will you join me in this? And, certainly because you're a doctor, but also because you're my sibling, you lean in with, ooh, I know something else that might support you and be fun. I know other things that we can do. Let's go for a hike together. Let's do stuff that really fits in the wheelhouse of what's best for my health right now. Then I would say move to those relationships with the people you live with. Ideally, those are people who are your big supports, but we know we've worked with enough people to know that's not always true. But what happens in your home is going to really be whether or not your day to day routines are supporting your health. And if you have saboteurs, if you have folks who don't really hear your boundaries, one, can you stand more firmly behind your boundaries? Sometimes I used to whisper my boundaries because I was afraid that people would reject me for having them. So then people would be like, well, you kind of whispered it. I didn't think you were really serious. And it's like, right,
You should
right.
be able to just have a
How can
boundary.
yeah, how can I convey that I'm really serious? How can I convey that there's no question mark at the end of this? There's no invitation for a debate. Um, it's just, I know, especially, it's not developed it just last week, but I know from my psoriasis, I get really clear feedback if something's not working for me. And I want other people to trust me, trust my skin, and trust my boundaries of I'm an expert or becoming an expert in having the most vibrant, healthy, fun life I can. I don't want to shove anyone out of it, but also the people who are not on board for that will probably have to take a bit of a backseat
Mm-hmm.
if I'm really to commit to what I'm doing for myself.
It's the
But
number one relationship. You said it. Your relationship with yourself, your self-care, being able to recognize that you have boundaries, being able to recognize you have triggers that will flare your symptoms. That relationship with yourself is continual and ongoing. The relationships with others may wax and wane or change, dynamics. But it sounds like you're describing self-advocacy
yes.
over just opting out. I know a lot of people who, they quit drinking or they change their diet and they just stop going out or stop doing the things that they might have really enjoyed.
Right. And those may be the best strategies for some folks. I really,
Maybe initially, if you feel worried about or the stress of
when
trying
I
to make
quit
those
smoking
decisions.
cigarettes, I didn't go to places people were smoking cigarettes for a while, right? Because I knew that that would cause undue suffering in myself. So I really want folks to hear again, I can't say this enough, different strategies work for different humans, right? And luckily, I think that my journey with autoimmunity and my journey just as a person getting older I've found a lot of ways of coming closer to people who I really feel like are those advocates for me, really support me, have my back. And most of my friendships are like that. So while it was awkward for me to say, like, I don't want to go to places with drinking, I don't want to go out really late, when I said, can we go and walk the dogs by the water? My friends said, yeah, that sounds great.
You gave
We
an
can walk
alternative
fine with you.
suggestion that
Right.
wouldn't hurt you.
Exactly. So there's creativity. We hope in these videos, in other content that we're offering in our courses, that people get more strategies. And again, we're not attached to, there's never one right best way for everyone. It's finding the way that works for you. It's finding the way to communicate to people, like, I'm worth this, I know it. And if you need to work with a therapist to be able to say that with a straight face, do. You deserve that as well. You deserve the support to have that strong, solid relationship with yourself. So then you can have it with other people. And most people actually will be on board if you're transparent with them about what's happening. It's when people are guessing because you don't want to seem too confrontive, but you're evasive and now you're not showing up and you're kind of grumbling that they don't have food choices that suit you, but you're not
You
sending them
didn't
that
tell them
email
you
ahead of
needed.
time
Yeah.
about what you can eat, or you're not just like, I brought my own food, I'm hard to feed. Like, that's a thing that I do. I go to parties, I create something that and for a while I didn't go to parties. And that was my
You might
choice.
have opted out in the beginning because it was
Sure.
easier than
Yes,
trying to
exactly.
navigate all of that. I feel like
And
some of it
now
is
I go with
learning.
something I can eat, that
Yeah.
I've prepared, that helps me with the things that were tempting but problematic that I might want to ingest in those spaces. And that's my strategy. I hope that, folks who are watching this, please put your strategies in the comments, because we we do so much better when we're working together. We're working in community. We're sharing good practices and habits with each other. But it will weed out the people who are in your life because it's easy, or because they are taking advantage of you. Because the moment you reclaim your time and energy for yourself, it won't work for some of those folks. And it's not really a good riddance, because we love and care about people. But it is a thing to anticipate seeing some shifts in, even if it's just less time with folks who aren't really on your wellness cheerleading squad.
That's such a good point. Is just like, do you need to take a break, or even just a little bit less time with folks that aren't about your healing journey?
Right. Like we have our 91-day program. And so for most people, that would be about being really focused for 3 months. And it's okay to tell people that you're just going to drop out of some events and some
You could
routines
warn them, say,
for a
I'm
quarter.
gonna be a little like off the grid for a couple of months here while I'm working on my health, and tell them ahead of time that you might not be available. Then there isn't an expectation, why did you disappear? One thing I was wanting you to speak a little bit about, and then we'll wrap up, was just learning what you need. Like, so many people would ask for help maybe if they knew what they needed. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about kind of your journey to understanding what you needed, so that then you could communicate it.
Right. A lot of therapy. A lot of therapy. No, but really, it started with kind of scouring books and the internet and picking your brain about, like, how do I treat this autoimmune condition, and see what I can do. My goal doesn't have to be anybody else's goal, but my goal was to treat it without any medications. And so I did a lot of research and discovered again and again that what I was eating had an impact on how I was feeling, which unfortunately a lot of Western medicine doesn't acknowledge. But so, and it's interesting growing up in America, like, we have a lot of attachment to our foods. We have a lot of nostalgia, the thing I ate with my friends or my grandparents, or right. We have a lot of nostalgia about foods. We also have dealt with the horrors of diet culture, the diet industrial complex that's made people feel terrible, taken a lot of their money and not helped them. So it's
Done harm to people's
like, yeah,
metabolisms
right,
and their wallets. Yeah.
right. And so they're diving into food and nutrition is fraught with challenges, and in my own experience as a big bodied person, like that was challenging and I didn't want to feel deprived. And at the same time, I felt like what I realized I needed was short-term commitment to eating healthier foods, eating things that I knew didn't cause inflammation in my body, eating things that were actually food, um, rather than eating a lot of the foods that were offered that have a lot of chemicals, a lot of preservatives, those kinds of things. I realized I needed sleep. And so protecting that, recognizing I never got good sleep, and that was because of health concerns that weren't addressed previously, but that I even needed time to rest. Even if you're not a good sleeper, knowing that, 8 hours of laying down and resting your body and breathing deeply is restorative in a way that, staying up all night is not.
So it's like you did the research to try to see which strategies you might pull in, and
Yeah.
then you experimented with some of those strategies, and you were basically inventing the wheel for yourself because you were pulling from different resources. So those resources informed the immune recovery program that we created. So all
Absolutely.
of Em's hard research and trial and error or trial and success, all of those things are filtered into the program as well. And some of the strategies that are most important for us might not be the strategies that are the most important for you. So it really is about having the experience so that you can let your body guide you. And then when you know what works for you and what does not, then it's easier to communicate those things with the people that you're in relationship with.
Absolutely. And if people around you can, if you can get them not in this is a debate about philosophies kind of space, but these are the facts about my body as I know them, right?
This is
Not
what I'm doing
debate.
for self-care. This is not a
Right,
fad.
right. I get a lot of that. Oh, I heard that this and that. Okay, great. This actually positively impacts my health, my relationship with myself, my self-respect. And we do have a lot of strategies based on relationships because I did opt out of a lot of things and felt really lonely. And that's one reason that we want to create more communities like our Facebook group and our courses is if you're the only person in your home, you're the only person at your workplace, you're the only person in your neighborhood doing this, then you can feel really lonely and isolated. And so what we want is for you to be brought together with other people who are also doing this, who also have those strategies, those habits, those, workarounds and shortcuts to share so that we get to celebrate our successes. We get to, one of the things that I love, that I feel like you really bring in, Christine, is a big sense of humor. So when we've worked with people in communities, we post our cooking fails, the inedible thing that goes
Do
straight
not
into
eat
the
this.
garbage,
Yeah.
right? Like you will break your teeth or it bounces, or like there's ways that when we can do that with other people and we don't feel like we've been exiled to, food jail, but we feel like we're in community with other people who are pushing their health needs to the forefront of their concern. I've seen some really beautiful friendships and connections build there as well, especially for folks who maybe spend a lot of time taking care of others and don't have a lot of capacity in their lives already, around advocacy and cheerleading. Those folks are out there for you. We're waiting to connect with you, and you to connect with us so that we all have abundance. We all should feel more resourced in our relationships, and in our strategies around health and happiness.
Yes, a shared community of health and healing and really lifting each other up, but celebrations and going through all of the ups and downs of the adventure together. So that if you feel like you don't have that community, it's like, hey, we're your community here. We are. Thank you so much, Em. I feel like that was so much wonderful information, and thank you for letting me pick your brain today.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we post new content.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook and other social media.